Forrest here to give you a quick recap of the month of July. It was quite a month. At the beginning of the month, artificial intelligence related sectors totally represented about 40% of the S&P 500. You had the Chinese memory chip maker called CXMT. It went public during the month. It was up 446% on the first day. There's been a big move in many of the Chinese technology companies. This moonshot Kimi K3 is sort of a deep-seek competitor to many of the artificial intelligence systems and programs and companies in the United States. And they're making progress on deep ultraviolet lithography. All of these were contributing to this shifting narrative around artificial intelligence stocks. So that's beginning to unfold during the month of July. The Iran situation basically began to encompass during the month not only the Strait of Hormuz, but also the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. The rising bond yields basically were more than just oil prices. You're seeing hyperscalers have been spending like crazy, a spending mania, and that's basically been adding to inflation worries. Then you get the Fed rate hike worries for the second half of the year, and tariffs have been talked about once again. So you've had this rising real yields have been a strengthening headwind on growth. And don't forget, the federal government funding expires at midnight on September the 30th. So October 1st, there's another chance for the government to shut down. We have all this political dysfunction going on. Inflation came in 3.5% for consumer prices. Core was 2.6. Both of those were below May. Producer price index 5.5 and 5.1 for headline and consumer and for core, 5.5, 5.1. Those were also below May. And then the personal consumption expenditures, the headline, 3.7%. That compares to 4.1% in May, and 3.3% for core versus 3.4% in May. The advanced second quarter GDP forecast right now has just come in at 1.5%. That compares to the first quarter final number of 2.1%. So you have this, the economy's growing, but it seems to be slowing somewhat. We've been talking about a run hot economy, and that's where you've had very strong numbers on the ISM numbers, but also on the regional Fed numbers. The Philly Fed, 41.4 versus 10.3 back in the month of June. Empire State, 15.6 versus 5.6 in the month of June. Retail sales, 0.2%, and the previous month revised up to 1% growth for May. The control number was up 0.4%. So you cut through all of this. And we had great volatility in the Kospi index. That's, of course, South Korea. Half of that index is Samsung and SK Hynix. And basically, in July, that index was down 33%, okay, down 33% through July 30th. And then on July 31st, the last day of this month just ended, it was up 18%. So it ended up being down 21%. A year to date, it is still up 33%. This is emblematic of the way conditions were in the technology space. We, of course, had the SpaceX IPO back in the middle of June, on June 11th. June 15th, June 16th, it had risen from 135 all the way up to 225. People were feeling very bullish, and it has since dropped during the month of July. It dropped below 135, the offering price, on July 15th, the middle of the month, and it closed the month at 112.20. You've had the July 28th, 29th Fed meeting. That was very important. Fed Chair Walsh did not give much forward guidance. Markets were looking for more detail, and he was very taciturn and closed in terms of not really willing to give forward guidance. You had three dissents. Laurie Logan of Dallas, Beth Hammack of Cleveland, Anil Kashkari of Minneapolis all dissented. So it was 9-3. So markets did not like the lack of concrete signal on when rate hikes might occur. And there was some developing worry or skepticism about the commitment of the Fed to actually fighting inflation, even though he says it. Earnings season basically unfolded during the month of July. Earnings were very, very good, but God forbid if they fell short. And so you had big moves in many of the technology stocks, the banks and the financials. They had very decent earnings, but the real movement took place in the technology stocks. We have the S&P 500 up about 9% for the year. NASDAQ up 8% for the year. Russell 2000 up 19%. So it's double what the S&P 500 is. Run hot economy and broaden economy. But a lot of the Fed's work has been done, and they should have stressed that, by the artificial intelligence volatility and sell-off there. And you had the oil price. The oil price rose 20% during the month. It started the month at $69.50. It closed at $83.59. Year to date, the oil price is up 45% for the year. And gold down 5% for the year, but it had its first winning month since the beginning of this year. Gold was actually up 2% for the month. With that, we wish everyone a great month ahead for the month of August and look forward to catching up with you very soon, inshallah.